Good evening, everyone. I am the Sock, and welcome to this Bi-Semi-Sorta Week's edition of Campaign Recap. GAP. Sorry. Looking back at the week in politics, the plot thickened for premature decision 2008, as a recent poll showed candidates Fred Thompson and Hillary Clinton as the clear frontrunners. This is interesting, since Thompson hasn't officially declared himself a candidate yet. However, another recent poll shows that well over 50% of Americans think Thompson's experience as a DA will serve him well as president and would consider voting for him. Meanwhile, the Clinton campaign took a break from trying to match Law & Order's production budget by sparing one of its minions from guarding Hillary's Communist Manifesto thesis to start work on surefire Thompson campaign-sinking commercials. Rumors in the blogosphere point to the use of some hard-hitting footage from Ace's Iron Eagle 3. Since Thompson's candidacy seems a given at this point, we consulted campaign experts to ask their opinions about a candidate leading the pack based so much on the public misconception of a candidate's person as being the same as the characters which they portray. The experts were in general agreement that this was a non-issue, and were pretty sure that any downside to the Clinton campaign would be negligible, provided that the Hillary Cares kabuki mask remained securely glued on. The Clinton campaign made further news of its own by announcing their new theme song, offering a conclusion to the one really important question which the Hillary machine wanted to hear your opinion on. What's the use talking to the plebes anyways, when you can make your own Sopranos commercial? Meanwhile, Senator Sam Brownback got his turn at the You Snooze 08 spotlight and decided to go back to actually soliciting feedback. His video saw substantial views, but not so many responses, since about two-thirds of the one-third that cared to begin with became quite distracted in trying to calculate how many stages of Mike Huckabee-derived multiplicity clones it took to create the slightly less eloquent yet fuller-haired and squintier Brownback. A few radical thinkers pondered the possibility of trying to reintegrate the two, along with any other clones they could find, to create a stronger, more viable candidate. Some detractors pointed out that such a process would not be scientifically feasible, but the radicals forged ahead with their plans, since all that science is really just still theory and speculation anyways. Other political news included Senator Chris Dodd saying something, blah blah blah, John Edwards talking about poor people, blah blah, even the poor people don't care until their cable gets turned off, blah, and Bill Clinton doing some limited campaigning for Hillary, blah blah, limited so that he doesn't accidentally, no way, spill his seed on a campaign aide, blah. And finally, it's time for the Sock's Notebook. I just saw an ad right here on YouTube for voter registration, urging us to vote because apathy is not sexy. Let's ignore for a second that as a sock, sexy has something to do with percentage of fabric composition, and let me state the obvious. If the motivation to vote has become something to do with being sexy or cool, I'm thinking maybe it's better that you don't register. Really, if that's the motivation, then focus on your car and get a fake tan and some Ray-Bans. Please stay away from the polls. Go vote when you feel you want to exercise your right to be sort of barely heard, and back it up with the obligation to be remotely informed and educated. That way, maybe the parade of nearly interchangeable buzzword-spouting asshats who run the country wouldn't be able to fool you so easily, with shallow, meaningless phrases and arguments, half-assed plans for the future, emotional hooks, and promises of short-term gratification. There's a president in the White House, with the brains of my left cotton nut, and who has more clearly visible puppeteer hands up his ass crack than anyone on this channel, and uncounted other political chimpanzees across the nation dictating harebrained policy between throwing feces and working for Career Builder. It's not like that because we didn't vote. It's like that because too many of us voted like dumbasses. So how about this time we focus on quality, not quantity? We can start practicing by identifying people who are more obviously chock full of crap and leaking from the ears, like, say, Sean Hannity, and work our way up to the harder ones, including all of the candidates. And that's a page from my notebook. I am the Sock for LBB News. Oh yeah, well, that ran us into overtime, folks, so we'll have to deal with that Ron Paul issue next time. This is the Sock, saying good fight, good night.